What's this have to do with Scottie Pippen? I know. Well, let's think about it. Because when it comes to LeBronites trying to do anything to make their failure of a savior look better, they turn to doing things like pretending that everyone else had this and that and the other thing, like Scottie Pippen being the greatest teammate ever. Jerry Krause was the greatest GM. Phil Jackson was the greatest coach ever. You know, all these people were people you never heard of before Michael Jordan. And can we just look at Jerry Krause for a second? He is somewhere between Frodo and Gollum if they fucking got blended together. And then he produced this alien thing known as Scottie Pippen. So stay tuned. After I rip on Krause, we're going to get back into the details of Scottie's contract that I left out for time in my previous ripping of Scottie. So here we go. Scottie and Krause bashing.
I want to talk about the credit that people give Krause. It's like trending right now because Krause was made to be such a bad guy, made to be by telling the truth about what he did. And then now it's in a lot of people talk about Krause deserves a lot of credit for putting that team together. Okay. Krause didn't get Michael Jordan. Krause inherited Michael Jordan. So the most important piece of that franchise, Krause had nothing to do with. From my point of view, you could argue that having Michael Jordan on the team helped shape whomever you acquired after that. Scottie Pippen is pretty much the only player acquired after Michael Jordan that was a name. You guys want to get all gung-ho about Horace Grant, Steve Kerr, blah, blah, blah. Don't pretend that you knew who any of these people were prior to them being on the Bulls with Michael Jordan. Even Dennis in the second three-peat. You know, you want to talk about the difference between having someone on your team who can get the best out of people. Do you think that a Michael Jordanless Bulls team, a Bulls team led by a Scottie Pippen, could have handled a Dennis Rodman, with Dennis Rodman at the peak of his antics in the NBA? What about Scottie Pippen makes you think that he could have handled Dennis Rodman? Do you not think that Dennis Rodman checked himself a little bit in the presence of Michael Jordan? Lord knows the Lakers couldn't handle Rodman.
After Michael retired and Rodman left the Bulls, Dennis only lasted 23 days on the Lakers. He says Kobe and Shaq were jealous of him. I don't know if that's true, but we do have this image of Scottie without Rodman rebounding for him. There you go, Scottie. Way to give maximum effort.
People talk about Rodman as if he was this just magnificent, no problems attached teammate that Michael was lucky enough to have. No one else wanted him. People weren't going to touch Rodman. Rodman was not popular at that time. They made a move. Why did it work? Why did it work?
You know, it's a little hard for me to swallow Jerry Krause's excuse of wanting to rebuild, of thinking about the franchise and the future of the franchise, especially nowadays, where organizations basically sell their future for one chance to win, you know, win right now at the cost of the future. We see what LeBron did to most of the teams that he goes to, trying to bring in superstars and then just leaving the team in disarray once he gets his and bounces out of town. They were winning. They were winning championships. I mean, they weren't just winning championships like some miracle attempt coming from the 8th seed and working their way up. No, they were just plain winning. They were dominating the NBA. Michael Jordan was still the best player in basketball at the time. Maybe they don't win their 7th one. Maybe they were too depleted emotionally. But who knows? God knows it would have to have been better than what actually took place. I mean, Good job with that rebuilding, Jerry Krause. Now, that was the lockout season the following season. So there were only 50 games played, but they only won 13 of 50. The lowest point of that season came on April 10th against the Miami Heat, and the Bulls scored 49 points to set an NBA record for the lowest points in a game in the shot clock era. Whew, that rebuild off to a rough start. Now, by tanking that year, they got the draft pick of Elton Brand the following year and also Ron Artest. But guess how they finished? 17-65. They finished that season up with the worst record in team history and the league's worst for the season at 15-67. On draft day of 2001, Krause traded away Elton Brand. The Bulls improved to 21 wins. What a year. In the 2002-2003 season, they brought Bill Cartwright back as coach, and they improved to a 30-52 record. And then guess what happened in the summer of 2003? Krause retired. Way to stick with that rebuild, Krause. And the Bulls have still been searching ever since. Now, with Krause leaving, the Bulls started doing nice, charitable things like bringing Scottie Pippen back, even though he was basically worthless at that point. That season, they went 23-59. Since then, the Bulls have shown some promise. They've had some moments. There was the Derrick Rose heartache. That is a shame. But, I mean, Krause traded championships for a trip to the bottom of the abyss. And what were the big moves that the Bulls made for Jordan during Jordan's time there? I mean, they pretty much just waited until they could draft people and see if draft picks would turn out. According to Sam Smith's book, There Is No Next, the Bulls traded Jordan's only and best friend on the team, Rod Higgins. Jordan then made friends with rookie Charles Oakley, who was going to be a protector for Jordan, who was getting beaten up in the league because nobody could figure out how to stop him. And the Bulls went and traded him away too. These are not things that today's stars would take lightly to. So what about all the effort to bring in talent? You realize that Jordan's first full year back, the 95-96 season, the Bulls improved from 47 wins to 72 wins. That's the best single season improvement in league history. So don't give me this shit about they were fine without Jordan. So here are some of the Bulls' most notable trades starting in 1994. They picked up Ron Harper. They picked up Judd Bushler. They picked up Steve Kerr. And they also picked up Luke Longley and Bill Winnington. In that offseason, they traded Purdue to the Spurs and picked up Dennis Rodman, whom the Spurs no longer wanted. Those guys did their jobs. Those guys were great contributors. But compare the drafting and trading done by the Bulls to build a team compared to what has been done to try to help LeBron James win. It's really not comparable. As long as we're talking about Krause and personnel and contracts, let's go back and talk a little bit more about Scottie Pippen's contracts, because I cut my other videos short before including these details, and I might as well throw it all in here. So if I understand this correctly, from 1987 to 1991, Scottie made about $3 million. People understand how much money that was back then? So he already had $3 million. And then in the 1991 finals, he didn't feel like he could negotiate a better contract. His agent couldn't negotiate a better contract. I mean, as if $19 million
$3 million a year in 1991 is so horrible anyway. It wasn't like today, where these assholes can go out and buy 30 cars and 5 houses within hours of their first fucking contract, whether they've done anything or not. They were in Arkansas in the 80s and 90s. How much money do you think that requires?
You guys know I already made fun of the house that Pippen bought for his mom in a previous video, but I stopped myself short of making fun of the decorating because I didn't want to be ripping on Pippen's mom or come across as ripping on Pippen's mom. But one of my viewers made the great observation about that cheap picture frame of Scottie's jersey, and he's so right. And I had to chime in, and I'm going to chime in here. That house looks like fucking garbage on the inside.
And, hire a decorator to come in here quick, because damn.
And look at that cheap frame. And that's not even an original jersey. Is that even an original jersey of Scottie's?
I mean, our dream, most of our dreams is to become a millionaire. The things we could do with $1 million, and we're feeling bad that a guy couldn't or didn't do what was necessary with first $3 million and then $19 million. And then, like I said, $100 million before the career was over with. How much did he make in endorsements? Let's go find out. So what I'm reading is that Scottie also made a fortune from endorsements. Scottie even had his own relatively low-key line of signature shoes with Nike, the Nike Air Pippins. I don't see that flying today with today's egos. Look, it's Air Jordans or it's nothing. They did an Air Pippen? Try this one on for size. Jordan made $90 million in career earnings from basketball play. Scottie made $110 million. You know, if you didn't invest your money wisely, if you weren't able to bring in endorsements, and it's not our fault that Scottie Pippen is ugly as sin. He looks like a fucking alien. You know, Michael deserved some endorsements for being good looking, for being more charismatic, for being better on camera, for being a better basketball player. I mean, Scottie was basically gifted contracts towards the end of his season. The Bulls took Pippen back as a team ambassador, whatever the hell that is. Sounds like a fake job to give him some money. And then he was fired in 2020 after failing to agree on a new compensation package. So even while they're trying to do favors for him, you can see that he probably was demanding that he was owed and deserved even more. He was overpaid. So if you're going to complain about him being underpaid, be fair and complain about him also being overpaid. Pippen had endorsement deals with Frito-Lay, Visa, Ameritech Cellular TV, and some other major companies like McDonald's, Right Guard, Coca-Cola. Okay, so he made some cameos. He had his signature shoes. Apparently, Pippen was cheap. He was nicknamed No Tippin' Pippen. So where's all this money going, man? How much money does it take to take care of your family? Because The Last Dance was nice enough to make it look like your big priority was to take care of your family. How exactly did you squander your money? I mean, he was dumb enough to let a long-term financial advisor commit fraud, but that was 1.4 million. Where's the rest of it, Scottie? Oh, you're trying to make it with your new shitty book? He has a $10 million mansion. Does anyone need to live in anything that's $10 million while we simultaneously are supposed to feel bad for this person?
All right, I'm going to leave you with a few quotes that I found of Jordan advocating for Pippen. Once again, not making any claims whatsoever to say that he could have even done it without Pippen, and even saying Pippen deserves as much as he deserves.